Cool.
I am, because it's definitely, she's the sexiest woman in Lucignano.
We now are live.
I'm very
with
happy, but
the
I'm just telling the truth.
with the sexiest woman in Luciano.
Absolutely. And she's walking away in a lovely, yep, very nice.
In a lovely yes.
In a lovely white top and some nice jeans and high heels, which you don't normally see her in, because she's the maitre d' in probably the best restaurant in Lucignano, La Tavernetta. There's some free
Okay.
publicity.
Cool.
So welcome from Tuscany.
Okay. So you'll see that I put a little timer on the bottom right-hand corner. You may not see that. So just to I think we're never going to keep it to an hour, but it would be good to try and keep it to an hour, I think.
Today's the day.
Yeah, today could be the day.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So, welcome everybody, and thanks for tuning in. That's the introduction. This is the bit that I thought I was going to be able to cram into the last one, but I think it's much better that we have more time, because I think there's so many branches of discussion from this particular subject. So you probably saw on the poster image that, let me just show what it is. Oh, let's get rid of this because I don't need that. That's good. So we're looking at this basically. I was kind of I found myself when I very first came across a website that spoke about this. Let me just get the website just to show you where I first saw it. And nope, that's not it. And there you go. And it is just this website that just says simply the Spain's hottest model. And, you know, being a man, I went, wow, that reminds me of Spain. Definitely. And I remember working in Spain and finding it delightful visually. And and oh my God. And so I only saw the pictures. I'm quite seriously dyslexic, so when I look at a page, I'm not drawn to text. Obviously I can read, but I'm drawn to the imagery because that's the area that I work in. And then after a few seconds, I then looked at this and just went, what? Really? What? AI? What? She's AI generated? That isn't real. And it is kind of realistic, right? I think this one a lot less so. Okay, there's some weird stuff going in on the breast, the higher chest area there, but I'm sure that's just tweaking in the software. But things like this, like really? I mean, I knew I'd seen a whole bunch of AI things, and nothing surprises me anymore when it comes to computers, geeks and software and users. I mean, you know, you can pretty much do anything, but when you read through this this article, it was the text that actually kind of grabbed my attention. It was just because I read it and it goes in my head doesn't mean to say I believe it. But I have to kind of give it some credence until it's proven incorrect. You know what I mean? So it's like this problem today with people worshipping anybody that has a load of followers. Well, I don't know about you, but I follow a whole bunch of people that I think are morons because I find them entertaining in their morondom. And so I know that my liking or following or subscribing somewhere else, I know is contributing to that person's adulation because the number is going up. But the number doesn't represent how many people see that person as a credible person or a person of derision, scorn. And there's loads of people that I follow on YouTube because I just want to have a laugh at how stupid they are. Because they've got such a different grasp on reality, and so you look at it and just go, Jesus, man, really? I never thought you'd go that low. But anyway, so when I started reading this, it was a team, a group of people who had come together. Supposedly, this person was born out of frustration at having to deal with influencers, okay? So the word model is small. Influencers, having to deal with them with their precocious nature, their tantrums and their egos and everything. So they decided to come up with an AI version, and so they didn't have to deal with people, basically. And now they make money from this person.
Looks like it's come from another person. I mean, it's real. It's Barbie stuff.
Sorry?
Her left arm looks like it's come from another person. It's a completely different
yeah.
bone.
Yeah, it's a different size, it's everything. The thing is, though, as I think we talked when we spoke a few days ago, I don't know, I guess it comes with age, and I'm aged now. I'm an age that I never thought I'd ever reach. You get the ability to be able to go back in time and imagine what it was like seeing an image like this in the days of film. If you know what I mean? In the days of film, before computers were widely available, if you saw an image like this, it would be 100% convincing. 100%, because there wouldn't be in your imagination this space in reality with a computer that you think, I wonder if they have managed to make an image like this on a computer, because there'd be no alternative way of building this in the day of film. It just would be a person with a very different left arm than a right arm. Okay. So
it's Barbie.
So putting it in the context of our last chat and following on, last chat we were talking about the debacle with Adobe. Is it a debacle, really? No. From my perspective, yeah, it goes on. But from my perspective, it's the Princess Tippy-Toe attitude of photographers thinking they're immune from the market forces that other people before them has suffered terribly. What, you think you're immune from exactly the same thing that has been going on for decades? Of course you're not immune. And this, so the way I see this is not just worshipping the ability to make this on a computer. I've known this was about for a long time. I didn't know, though, that there was an agency that is actually potentially, I mean, I'm still yet to find, I've been looking for a couple of days trying to find a real job where this avatar was used as a model and they received money. I'm sure they have, because it's a big thing to say that, you know, we potentially make 10 grand a month. Prove it comes to mind. You know, show me. I've looked trying to find her as a model in some product ad. Haven't found one yet. I'm not saying it isn't there. I just haven't looked. I've looked and I haven't found it. So my question to you is, what is a greater threat? What is a greater threat to the world of photography? Yeah. Adobe just squeezing like corporate bloodsuckers that they are and extracting more money per month and offering less as upgrades and stuff, and then handcuffing you. Or having somebody not need you at all, because a big part of the Adobe thing was the ad, you know, ditch the shoot. Okay, so the word ditch the shoot, and that's coming from the people who make the software that you use to do your job. Yeah, you don't need those people. So that I really get. All the financial stuff with Adobe, it's like, well, how can you, it's like you were saying about Italian people at the moment, they're really pissing and moaning about the weather because it's not good.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you can't change it. I mean, you can moan about Adobe all you like, but they do not care about you as an individual in any way, shape or form. And you're never going to get 30 million users all holding hand boycotting Adobe. That's just never going to happen. But
I've never had a Christmas card from them, have you?
well, of course not. Even when I worked with them, you know, you just knew you could be dropped at any moment in time. You know, you're just a commodity. The words "ditch the shoot" or "cancel the shoot" or whatever it was, that's different because that's psychological. That gives you an idea of their mindset about moving forward. And when you look at every single update that they've done for a couple of years, it's all about AI. You can make a selection, you can put a flying unicorn in there. Anna loves it. You know, I showed her AI and I'm telling you, she nearly passed out because she could go into her Photoshop, make a selection in the sky and put a unicorn in there, and you know, and then it was, what else can I have? And I just said, look, just type whatever you think into that box and it will turn up. Luckily, she's only 12 and very sheltered. But that's more worrying to me. This is more worrying to the world of photography, even though I'm only, what am I really? I'm a ghost in the world of photography. I'm in it. I interact with photographers all the time, but I wouldn't call myself a photographer. So I see it more of an observer, and I would be infinitely more worried about this because this, how many people get put out of work or lose a payday? How many people lose a payday because somebody successfully,
or become polite, turn up on time, act appropriately?
Well, this in the week that we've spent now thinking about this, there's loads of things that came to mind. And 3 days ago, when I actually found the agency's website and I went and had a look at it, a few other dimensions of this text kind of unfolded. So let me just show you. So anyway, look, these are loads of pictures. And obviously, each one of these poses is just simply changing software, changing wang bars, just wanging it around, changing lighting, everything. From a ad agency point of view, if you put that head on and think about it, if you're able to do a product placement in an ad with an avatar, you're going to do it, right?
Of course.
There's no photographer, there's no lighting, there's no makeup artist, there's no stylist, there's nothing. You can just type in what you want. I think there'd be multiple different ways in which you could get your product into one of these pictures. Like there's one with a car. Where is it? No, the car one is on my desktop somewhere. It was in the, oh no, actually, hold on, show more. Let me see if the one with the car is in here. I don't know whether this was a real job, but anyway, they're not really that relevant down there. Anyway, there's one where she's standing by a pink car. Maybe that's a product placement thing, I have no idea. But it all comes, like the image is created completely by a computer. I wouldn't use the word AI here because I don't think, by everything that I've seen, how you make these models, you control everything. You decide features, you give it a map, you give it a template to build by, so you get a repeatable thing, so you can change the scene, you can change the lighting, you can change the clothing, and it will remain the same. That's not AI. It's got nothing to do with AI. That wasn't created by a computer. It was created by a software user with slide bars, just saying more of this, less of this, more of this, less of this. I just feel that if I was a photographer looking at this, and a commercial photographer, obviously not a social photographer, but a commercial photographer who I would see at the higher point of the triangle of quality of work. This is the thing that surprised me, that the world of imaging is being impeached upon from both ends, from the bottom up. Hey, all you've got to do is have this preset. You put the camera in auto, click, hit the preset, and you can sell it. That's the bottom end. And then you've got the top end, commercial work, or the higher end of commercial work. Would you feel more threatened if you were working still in this environment, in commercial?
I'd feel pretty threatened if I was working in lifestyle photography as well.
Yeah.
Travel to a certain extent, or you've got Ken and Barbie here. Put them wherever you want, whenever you want, however you want.
Yeah, yeah. Because, I don't know, you did a lot of car photography, right? For auction houses. Is the image enhanced by having her in it? Not in that particular...
Only personally.
No, I mean, not in that particular thing.
Not.
But if you were a car sales thing, which I was involved in here, in just the idea of doing a photo shoot for a particular car brand,
well, are bars in the Mediterranean full of pretty girls? Yes, it helps sell the car, so maybe it would. But I think in the sector that I was in, but maybe a little less. But yes, it would, definitely. There's always someone that's going to be attracted because there's a form that's interesting. Two designers, if not three. One for the car.
Well, the big thing that I've seen on this, the more I've delved into it, the more I've read and everything, is that this at the moment is very much aimed at the influencer market. Okay, I am yet, like I said, I'm yet to see like an ad with a watch brand or a jewelry brand or a fashion brand and an AI model. I'm yet to see it. I'm not saying I doubt it's out there. It might be out there. I've just not come across it yet. But it's very much used. I mean, in this article, it's saying there's 250,000 followers on Instagram. Now there's 320. Like I followed it yesterday just so I would get that. It's 320,000 people seeing these images on a daily basis as they scroll through. Okay. I would argue probably most of them probably know it's AI by now. But do they stop following because it's not AI? No, I don't think so. 320,000. And when you look at how ad revenue has just, for me, from my point of view, it's ruined society. Ad revenue. The ease of grabbing hold of cash because you can just get eyeballs on your work with no critique. All you have to do in YouTube is get someone to watch your video, and eventually you'll make money. What does that encourage? Quality or sensationalism?
Well, it encourages young photographers to become AI artists because the only potentially good thing that I can think of, Japanese photographers and other photographers going to Provence, going to Cinque Terre, consuming the landscape, ruining people's crops. So, if a young photographer doesn't actually want to buy equipment, travel, go through customs, and at least they don't have their film to worry about nowadays, then I can see that being beneficial. But, is it enough? Perhaps it is, because we keep photography and AI-generated images separately in competitions and how it's got seen. But yeah, there's an enormous knock-on effect. Hair and makeup, stylists, photographer. I mean, you're saving all that money. Of course, the answer to your question on an advertising level. Not only that, how many people do you have involved? The agency and the guy that's operating the ones and zeros.
Well, let's just have a little look at this. So this is the site of the agency. Let's call it an agency because they call themselves an agency, and this is the homepage. Some animating thing made on a computer. Fine, cool. It's an AI modeling agency. Yeah, I'll leave it for you to read whatever you want to read, but not so much. Then when I go and have a look here at the agency itself, oh, I can't zoom this up, can I? Because I've got it on the wrong thing. It doesn't look too much like an agency to me. I've been to quite a few agencies in my life, and there's a few people there. There'd be a number of people, and their experience usually comes with age, right? I don't think you get experience of anything by going to any form of school, because all you're taught is the theory. And then when you go into an environment after school, when I was in my 20s, I would say it was a kind of a popular. It would be the kind of the view that you might go to college or university, you come out, then you find a career, you get a placement, and then you start at the bottom and you work your way up. And within my lifetime, it's gone from that, because you need to then gain experience, to finishing a degree and expecting 200 grand a year because you're an expert. And when I
the
look
old
at,
days were qualified but not prepared. Nowadays, it's just.
well, I look at all the people there. I have no idea who they are and everything, but they're geeks, right? And I don't mean that in a detrimental way. They are computer people. They're computer people, and in a lot of the text, when the guy on the left is interviewed, he reportedly is repeatedly saying, it's so difficult having to deal with people, having to deal with real models. We got so fed up with it, and dealing with tantrums and not turning up and being late and being drunk or just being prima donnas because they're influencers, not models. Influencer models, to me, are not the same models that I would have been involved with in a photo shoot 30 years ago. It's a very different thing. So I just wonder if their frustration at having to deal with influencers of a similar age, their frustration is because they just haven't developed the skills yet and haven't commanded a room with your experience, because I don't know, you don't have any, right? What kind of experience could they possibly have to be able to just get the model and say the right thing to the model at the right time so that they're focused and they do what you need them to do? So instead of learning the skills of human interaction, let's just put it on a computer and we can have whatever we want and we'll sell that. It's a little bit like for my sins, obviously, for some of the things I have to do, I look at a number of YouTube movies, and so unfortunately you see the odd ad. There's one particular ad that really strikes me about Envato. I use Envato for the website. We've downloaded a few plugins and stuff. But there's an ad at the moment, and there's, obviously I know it's fake, but the message it's putting out there is, don't learn how to do something. Don't take time to do something. Just buy an off-the-shelf product, because it will do it for you. And then at the end of it, because this particular ad says, I use Envato because literally anything that I can think of, I can just go to Envato, I can download it. And one of the things I like to do is I like to animate text message conversations. And it takes so long to do it in After Effects. And now I don't have to. And that, you know, I can take that attitude and I can hold it here. There you go. I've got that attitude. You can't see that, but I've got it here in my whack-on puck. And I can rewind a conversation I had only a few months ago with somebody in retouching, where the AI, you know, you go into Photoshop and you want to do a cutout around a person. I'm very easy. You would be very easy too. But somebody with very, very, let's just say, curly hair isn't actually that difficult. But the hardest thing to make a cutout of is somebody with greying hair that isn't entirely grey. So some of the hair is whiter than the background and some of the hair is darker than the background, and it's very mottled all the way around. There is no solution but manual around that. And if all you ever do is reach for the cheap solution, you'll never learn how to do it. And I remember doing this in front of somebody, and they just turned around and said, "Are you sure that's the only way to do that? This is somebody who hasn't got a clue what I'm doing." And I went, "Well," and they went, can't you just put it in multiply mode? Can't you put it in screen?" Well, if that would work, I would do it, right? My experience is, within half a second, I know what technique to do a cutout because I've done it over 44 years. So over various different technologies and stuff. So I know which ones I can get away with an auto and which ones are not going to get away with an auto. But if you never gain the experience, well, then you're not experienced, are you? You're just buying solutions from a store to do it for you. And I just hear this all the time. Don't waste your time doing this manually. Just give us a little bit of money and we'll do it for you.
But you see, photographers are guilty of this as well, though, because I have a personal hate for anybody that sells presets.
Yeah.
I think that's the theft. I really do. And so on the one hand, they're moaning about certain things that are covered by the law, and yet on the other hand, they're taking up all the flexibility and sort of saying to beginners, well, look, you know, you can use my presets, which are named after that funny American ice cream, whatever. You know, Chrono's Photos, who every time he comes on YouTube, and you've got to give him his due. If you go back and look at his early stuff, I mean, he's a particular person and he's off the wall, but everything is to do with either merchandise or presets.
Of course.
That can't be right.
Of course. Of course. Of course. And you can see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And, you know, in all my decades of going to people's companies and teaching large groups of designers or pre-press people or photographers and retouchers, the first half an hour or the first hour was always, well, I'm just going to sit in the studio and you just go to work and I'll just watch you. And they would just invariably always...
That's your approach.
The path of least resistance is just to presume the camera is really good because it costs a lot of money. And everybody else is using the same thing, so that gives you a sense of confidence because, you know, you're in a group of users, and then the raw converter you choose is based on how many people use it, and then immediately go from a raw file into applying a style to it from the raw and applying a style.
What, like a love?
Which is just the path of least resistance, isn't it? It's the easiest thing to do. Now, can you get away with that because the expectation in the industry is high? Or can you get away with that because the industry expectation is low? It's because it's low. And why? Because there's no tastemakers. The people you're giving the image to appraise your work, haven't got a clue what they're looking at. They can just go, yeah, it's fine. And there's an infinitely better way of doing everything, but it takes time to learn. Like, you know, the new action that I put together, I have to help quite a few people, so I just get on Zoom with them or get on Skype, and I walk them through it. And because it's not the easiest thing to do, to allow the image to go backwards, to be a lot worse, so it has the room to become a lot better. when it comes off the camera, it is so compressed that you can't, there's so many things you can't do to it because it's already been done by the camera. So undoing that then leaves it entirely up to you to do what you want with it, which once you've got it to a much, much higher level, and then you might apply your preset or your style or whatever, the base image is infinitely higher than it is when it comes off the camera. And there's just so many people that just really struggle with having to spend time to learn anything. Because honestly, when do you learn anything?
But it's not that difficult post-production. I think, is it fair to say that anything that you do in post-production, you're only changing two things, and that's color and tone?
Not at all. It's infinitely bigger than that. It's infinitely bigger than that. So, I mean, you know, but the thing is, you've got to do, for me, you've got to do things in the right order, because otherwise you're just a dog chasing your tail. And all I know is that when I went from teaching people in the litho industry in my earlier days, and then teaching the design community for many decades, and then teaching photographers. Photographers, you have to be very object orientated. Okay, so whenever I was teaching them, they'd have an image on the screen and they would just point and go, I don't like that bit, and I don't like that bit, and I don't like that. And it's like, no, you've got to see the image in a different way. If all you do is go round fixing each little bit, you make a patchwork quilt of crap, because then it doesn't match. You've got to learn that the reason why you don't like that bit is for exactly the same reason why you don't like that bit. It's just that it's a different object. And so I learned quite early on, really, that to be a really good photographer, you have to be object orientated. Like when you took pictures of cars, you know, the wheels, you had a particular requirement for wheels. You'd have a particular requirement for reflections and stuff. It's all about the objects or the elements that you can see. And for me, when it comes to post-production, it's not about the individual details. It's about seeing it as a whole. So when I process or I teach processing, I teach it very much like an old scanner used to be. Luckily, I went from being a user, being a scanner operator, and then I went and worked for a manufacturer at 21. And once, I never had any real formal training, but they would chuck you in R&D for a while, for 6 months, and then you would just pick up all sorts of stuff. And although I'd been a scanner operator for a few years, and I, you know, being young, I thought I knew everything. Oh my God, I mean, within 6 months, I knew just how little I actually really knew about how this machine worked. And so I had people come and show me how the light, when it goes through, hits a photomultiplier, would get a piece of paper and draw the photomultiplier, explain to me how that would work, how it goes from an analog to digital converter. And then once the signal is digital, it then goes through the color computer, like the keyboard that I would be manipulating to make the skin tone better and everything. Then I could envisage what is happening. So we always knew that you deal with tone first, fundamentally, and color second. But the amount of people that I've taught in my life, all they care about is the color. And they muck around with all the color and they get all the color the way they want it. And they go, yeah, it looks a bit flat. I'm just going to now change the contrast and I'm going to do an S-shaped curve. And then all the colors change. Because there's an order to doing things. And you'll never, and obviously there's now decades of people or generations of people that now don't do any of that, because all they do is they get a preset, they take a picture and they press a button, they go, yeah, cool, love it, it's cool, don't learn anything.
And they don't understand why they like the changes.
Well, again, that's the whole thing. There's a kind of an internal language, isn't there? That
Yeah.
all I see is light. All I see is reflected light. All I see is shape. I don't care what the object is. in the primary bit of processing. I don't care what it is. All I see is compression. In the shadows, is there detail there that I can't see? Always. Always. Are there highlights that I can't see? Well, then it'd be really stupid for me to kind of mess around with a curve if I haven't got the detail that I need to represent the image. It would be really stupid of me to start thinking about color before I've got those two things correct. So there's an order in which you do things, and then there's sharpening, which is always the final thing you do. So there is an order to things, which obviously I was lucky enough to have learned, because I learnt this 3 generations of equipment ago. So not the revolution that we're talking about in digital photography, not even the one before that. The one before that, I learnt that there is an order to process an image, and whether I'm processing it on a scanner or whether I'm processing it in Photoshop makes no difference. I still do exactly the same thing. And instead of taking me 10 minutes to create something that I might be happy with, it takes me a minute to be perfectly happy every single time. But the theory has got to come. And all I know is when I'm not wishing in any way to be disparaging against this company. I want to get in touch with them. I want to have a chat with them. I want to find out. I want to find out what they're actually doing to make money with this. I'm sure it is purely in the influencer thing, and I know, I've seen enough videos of people showing how 100,000 subscribers in Instagram can be turned into money. And as soon as you're over a certain number of subscribers, then people will come to you and say, your content gets eyeballs. Advertisers only care about that. They don't care about the absolute moral or principle of what you're doing. They just care about selling shit. So I can very much understand why that would make money. There's I wouldn't say necessarily a dark side, but yeah. They also sell this person on a OnlyFans equivalent, showing images of this avatar in, let's just say, more slightly revealing circumstances. Let's put it that way. And for the life of me, I don't know how that works as a human being. Logging into a website and then there's one thing finding a human attractive, but this is a bunch of pixels, and I'm going to give it money, and I'm going to give the creators money. I would have to find a tall building and jump if I ever saw my hands moving towards the keyboard and my credit card number. It's like, seriously, really? There are people that actually pay to look at nude pictures of this representation of a female? I'm glad that I'm not a part of this. But is this where we're really going?
Well, is it a long way away from the people that like EA Games? Last month, as you know, Gabby, a qualified copywriter, was helping with some stuff for the retreat. And when she explained, I was obviously curious about how that whole sphere works, because many, many years ago when I was working for MTV, I was working out of a production company that was doing a lot for EA Games. And there are different types of games, but what they have is more or less, in short words, a magnetic game, so that you don't pay for it, but everything else to actually expand the game and so on and so forth is a subscription. We go back to the 33 million at Adobe. So is it very far away from that? No, they've seen a model that works, and now they've made a Barbie model out of pixels, and so we're going to have a percentage of the population in this world that are going to grab their credit cards and not jump. Sad.
Yeah, I don't see me as being the target audience for this. It's just I'm trying to critique it as not being me. And who pays to look at those images? Like, who pays when you know you're looking at AI? Who?
people that never went to the W.H. Smiths and see Hustler and all those other things that were up on the top shelf.
Those were the days.
Exactly. Skeletons out the wardrobe.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to experiment with this. I'm curious. I'm just curious. I've seen countless movies in the last, say, 6 weeks about this. It's been in my head for quite some time. It's been around, I think, for a year or two. It's not certainly not new. But I want to do it because you can actually take a picture of somebody and make it of them.
Drop the head on.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can take a picture of a family member and then create an avatar of a family member. And
There
I'm
you
just
go.
wondering.
That's probably the person that goes and pays with their credit card. If they've fallen out with a family member, then they can distribute all the.
Well, I just wonder
wonder
if I'm only guessing because this is in its infancy, right? Because the technology is in its infancy. It's nowhere near where it's going to be at some point in time. So let's just say in a decade's time, this video will just be, oh God, you know, we've only just found out that the Earth is round type thing. Where will it be in 10 years' time?
You put those goggles on and you'll be with her.
Exactly. I mean, I'm presuming that this isn't actually a 3D wireframe that is rendered to this level of quality. This is just these. I don't want to use the word AI because I hate it, but these AI interfaces where you can say, I want this, I want that, the hair color, skin tone, or whatever. But there will be a time when it will be a 3D. It'll be a 3D wireframe, and you'll be able to have your face scanned, and it really will be you. So, from a photography point of view, will there be a need then for studio photography? You know what I mean? Would it impact on studio photography?
Films, because if we're talking about it in photography, imagine where they're already with films, because
of course,
you know.
Well, you said it. I mean, the Unreal Engine, you know, the old way of doing CGI, or a way, not okay. It's the forerunner of doing cutouts on video was a blue screen, green screen. And then a few years ago, I saw the LED wall, you know, that they now shoot in, and now the camera can move completely in tune with the parallax, and all the lighting is mapped from these enormous screens. And then they use the Unreal Engine that is used to power games on an Xbox or whatever. And now this upgraded, I think it's on version 5 now. It's outrageous. I mean, it is photorealistic. So the whole point is, if on a computer in Unreal Engine, you should have a look, go and see what artists are coming up with. And these same artists are now producing realistic environments for the actor to be inside this walled room, receiving all the ambient lighting. I think it was on The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian had this very, very reflective armor that it worked perfectly. So this person with a shiny silver suit, all of the ambient light would reflect perfectly on, and also the actual reflections would contain the actual environment. And that's now just become normal. I mean, you can see people who have done it on a real budget and put it in their homes, you know. Are we worried about Adobe just squeezing a few more cents out of you and saying, don't need the photographer? As time goes on, aren't the producers of images just going to be different people? The people who make the images are going to be different people.
Yeah, and if that was that we were seeing a development of good imagination, then that would be fine. But you can't guarantee that.
Well, you can absolutely guarantee that it won't be.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, and history tells you that. So history, from my point of view, tells me when I went to Fleet Street, I started being a consultant in Fleet Street when they were still in the word Fleet Street, the street called Fleet. They were there, and I remember going there. And then they moved to Canary Wharf, where it was the building in London, the high-rise building. And there's so many stories from that building. But anyway, loads of newspapers went there, and I was there for 3 or 4 years teaching writers, editors, all sorts of people how to scan and how to retouch images, because they just fired the scanning operators, all the people with all the knowledge accumulated over their careers, all the people with the knowledge, tastemakers, you could argue. They were just gone. And I said, where are they? And they said, well, we had to give them an ultimatum, really. It was just a choice. You either take redundancy or you go and work as a forklift driver in the factory. So the person who knows the most about imaging and color is driving a forklift. And obviously the quality of the images, I mean, it didn't just plummet. I mean, it just was non-existent, because just wanging around aimlessly when it isn't your craft, it's hard to think that you're going to get the best image at the end of that, right? And it's the same with when I'm around photographers, the amount of time, I mean, now I know what I'm doing with a camera and I know what I'm doing with the shoot, but when you're around somebody with experience, they just see shit that you will never see, because it's not my bag, it's not my thing. And so you learn. I would never have thought of doing that. I would never have thought of doing that. All that was gone, because I'm just teaching writers how to do the pictures for their own image. So the continuity through a newspaper, the quality was just all over the place. Things that we were brought up to do without variation. I mean, it was, if you didn't get continuity over a spread of images to make them balance, you just would find yourself not working there. I mean, it's not optional. And then when Quark Express came along, and you could just import from MS Word the text and then type into it, oh my God, did typography go up in quality because of the ease of typography? It still hasn't recovered. The amount of mistakes that you still see today with just basic typography. So usually what happens when you look at video, I went through litho when it went from analog to digital. I went through design when it went from analog to digital. I went through video when it went from analog to digital. Then the web came along, obviously digital, but then the things that we created then only, for the most part, then would only go on the web. And then obviously the very last one that I've gone through is photographers going from analog to digital. Not one of those environments ever got better because of computers. Not one of them.
No, I agree with that.
Because the computers coming in.
Photography did get better when photography became more accessible, in my opinion, to the female spectrum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's I remember a seminar that I gave. I gave a big presentation to a really in Australia. There was a massive amphitheatre of hundreds of people, and just for a laugh, I thought, let's see how this goes down. And because in all of my years of giving lectures and teaching on working for manufacturers and then being a user or a director or whatever it was, men are geeks. Men are just geeks. And in all professions that I've ever worked in, there's very few men that I've ever met who are creative, but are just emotionally creative. Most of the time, it's with the scaffolding of systems and algorithms and relationships. I can only do this if this allows me to do this. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't have an opinion. You can do whatever you want. Oh, no, but I have to do that. And okay, it's fine. Whatever rocks your boat, it's fine. But in this seminar, I remember just saying, because I remember I got there, they said to me, get there early and we'll have lunch. And then I'm on the table and there's a load of people there. And, men would always go, oh, do you work in 16-bit? Do you shoot in RAW? What camera have you got? And it's like, what does it matter? Like, what does it matter? You can't see 16-bit. You can't see it in context. When it's in its final delivery, you can't see with your eyes whether it's 16-bit or not. It's an editing choice. It gives you a greater manipulation range if it's in 16-bit. But it's always going to end up being 8-bit on delivery, always. Then resolution was always my favorite, but my conversation was always a technical thing, that they couldn't possibly consider an image to be okay unless it was 300 dpi. They couldn't possibly think that your image was any good if it didn't come from a camera that they respected. And I just simply, and I got really pissed off, like subconsciously in this lunch that I was having, and I just wanted to have my throwback. And my throwback was my overwhelming observation of working in this field for a very, very long time is that men are geeks and women are creative.
Yeah.
And there was this small group of men who sat right in the middle, halfway up, so they were in the prime thing, and they all got up and they left. And as they would, because they got really pissed, because I just said, men are geeks, creating rules for everything. And women just, whenever I've had discussions with women that I've had to go and teach, they go, I love the light on there. And that they would get images that they want to emulate, and they would go, I really want to learn how to get an image that makes me feel like this. And an absolute in any of them is, equally as bad. So having somebody that only runs around with a hand on their heart, when you're trying to teach them how to do sometimes things that are technical, that's equally as bad too. You need to have a healthy mix. But when I said men are geeks and women are creative, man, it was like the amount of people just looking around at each other. And this group of about 6 men got up and left. And I just said, dudes, the fact that you're leaving says infinitely more about you than it does me. And I'll never forget that. But it is true. I just get a very different experience if I'm teaching or helping or guiding sometimes a female in photography, because they just see it as something different.
Well, as you know, I'm preparing for the Palio, and as you know, I also have 2 or 3 students that I take under my wing that show great enough interest in photography to try and get them on their way. With the Palio, what you're talking about is an event in a certain space on the platform, my agency that's being put together for all the events in Tuscany. I thought about it about 3 or 4 years ago when I started seeing the female eye in the space. And it is so totally different. So I think I've got 4 new female photographers that are involved on presenting their interpretation of the Palio afterwards. I've got students that have come with me, and I've got some photographers that haven't. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any major visual differences, because obviously we're not going to have anybody on talking about cameras, this, that, and the other. So I'm looking forward to that. And as you know, there's 2 Palios every year in Siena. I always do one for myself because it's 7 days of training. You've got action, you've got portraits, you've got behind the scenes, you've got night, you've got day, you've got the cavalry going the wrong way around the circuit. You've got every possibility to actually brush up on the things that hopefully take you forward creatively. And then the second one I do one for myself, so there's creative freedom, and then I do one as a journalist, photographer, just to make sure that I've always got good relations with one of the contradas, so I can get hopefully into spaces that even people that live in Siena can't get to. And looking forward to it. As you know, off tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow I think I've cleaned the car, set her up in camper again, because sometimes even traveling 10 minutes can be the difference between having free parking and not thinking about anything other than photography. On Wednesday, well, hang on, because I'm a little bit fluffy in the brain this morning, as you've already experienced a brain fade before the meeting. Dates are easier. 27th is when it starts. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, they start arriving in the marketplace, all the horses that could potentially be selected. And they do tests, free practice, let's call it, in terms of people understanding it. And so the people that are involved, the captains of the Contradas, the Fantini and other people, they start selecting the horses that are most in form and seem to be most adapted to the terrain that they're going to be run on. And they do that over 2 days. One, because they do a selection of horses that will run, and they do a selection of younger horses to get experience on that terrain. And then on the third day, they actually put all the horses, they decide the horses that are actually going to be available for the selection, and only 10 run. So I don't know what the number is, I would be saying an inaccuracy, but let's say between 15 and 20 horses. They're all put into a wheelie thing, and all the city comes out and they're assigned. And then you start that afternoon with the first tests of the horses that will run. And the nice thing is you get more color in the palio as well. Someone who's experienced at seeing it will notice that on the first 2 days, they can come almost dressed like I am. And then from the minute the trate is, they start looking like waiters, because they go in black and white, which is the colors of Siena. And then the minute they've been assigned, then the colors start coming in, but not the full colors, even up to the trial run the night before, where they still have this sort of plastic flower pot helmet on. So the real palio pictures, you know that they've been taken when they're wearing the tin helmets.
Yeah.
In full
So
color.
how many years has this been going on? This sounds very traditional.
I got to be careful what I say here. It's been going on for centuries, and I'm just going to say this: the origins were run in a straight line outside of Siena between cattle, so the canina.
Okay.
And then obviously for logistic purposes, it's been brought in and
But
developed
it's
into what it is
evolved over
today.
centuries, but this is an event which is centuries old.
Absolutely. 2
Okay.
events every year. And if you're lucky, you can get an extraordinary, which means that there'll be 3 events every year.
Okay, so then
So,
what I'm thinking then is, because I'm intrigued, I've seen your pictures from years gone by, but I think what we should do next time is, because it won't probably be with you next week, I'll probably do one next week. I might have to do a solo one.
perfect.
Or I might. I was actually talking to Ron yesterday, and I'm trying to get Ron to. Ron's probably watching this, and even me saying his name is going to make him go bright red. But yeah, to just do a kind of a storytelling of how we got here. You know what I mean? How did we get here? And I wanna do that with him, but he really doesn't want to get his face on camera. But I think I can Jedi mind trick him. But I think what we should do
You
is
can
next
get an
time.
Amazon balaclava to him very quickly, can't you?
I think it would be
Come on,
quicker.
Ron, it's
It
not
would be
that difficult.
quicker for him to just bite himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just thinking that next time we should just do it. You do a presentation of what you just described for everybody, because I'm sure there will be a few people watching this would love to see what you do, the images that you take, because that will be news, because that will take us to the event. You know what I mean? So
Well, you know,
how
I'm
about?
always active, so I'd love to do that. As you know, at the weekend, I was following a particular horse that could run in the Palio. And as you know, that's linked to Selvaggio, who's at Calcione, where we're planning the retreats for November and spring. So, yeah, I mean, pushing a little bit of Tuscan life on what we're doing is certainly a
Yeah,
large slice of the cake.
so the next one we'll do, this is the subject for next time. The next time will be you're just going to show it, and I'll sit here and watch.
I shall
Okay?
narrate.
Yeah, no, it'll be cool. It'll be cool.
I
I
think
think
that's
that'll
great
be
because
good.
it'll be fresh in my mind. And also, what's also nice about having 2 is that hopefully, you know, we could do one later in the year and see if there were, you know, what we're
Yeah,
talking about, this creative style. or creative expanse that the female psyche goes into that the male puts cages around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, cool.
Well, that's good. Why don't we
Well,
call it a
look,
day there? Because
look.
the
I
sun's
know.
coming out.
I'm seeing 40. I'm seeing 40 seconds. We've got to go for the
We
hour.
did it.
So,
We
I
did
know.
it.
I think it's good to keep it at an hour
Fireworks?
because I've done this forever.
No.
I can talk forever, as most members of the website know. But keeping it an hour, I think, is a good thing.
Have
And
you ever
I
seen
haven't
this
covered.
before?
That used to happen when I used to lecture in big events, and that somebody would be right at the back and they go like this, and I'd just ignore them, and then they'd get closer and closer and closer and closer. And they'd go, get off!
Time's up.
Yeah.
It's like renting a boat on the lake in Hyde Park.
Come in, come in. Anyway, thanks for coming. Thanks
Right,
for
we're
doing this
done.
again.
Thank you.
And I know, look, I haven't touched every aspect that I've been thinking about with this. It will become more refined as days go on, and I'm sure we'll touch on this again. I'm going to get in touch with the Clueless, and I'm going to try and get I want to get just a chat with them to see what they do and motivation, and are they really making money from this, and how? So we'll see.
In your web wandering, Guy, have you ever bumped into a thing called Ask the Public?
In my what?
In your web wandering, as we all do, have you ever bumped into something called Ask the Public?
No.
It
No.
used to be used for keywords, and it was a lovely way of them. Basically, it was a circle, and in the middle was your keyword, and then it had all these sort of psychedelic things coming off to ideas. And that's pretty much when you planted the seed last week about the more realistic contamination of AI in the industry, and more than just photography. It just, that sort of, that's how I see it now. That you take that one little thing, and just because Adobe's sort of throwing up the safety beacon or the life jacket flasher, there's a lot more involved. And as I say, and as we've discussed, as long as you keep the two things separately, if people can be photographers and people can be AI image generators, I don't have a problem with that. Every move forward has to have its place in the market. And if there are casualties, well then, I suppose, do I ever have a plan B if I couldn't be a photographer? No, but I'm sure you'd formulate one pretty quickly. If
Well, we all
something
have
came
to.
along that would close down.
I think modern life, or no, contemporary life, let's just say life that we've now lived for the last, say, 20 to 30 years, we've all grown accustomed, because people of our age, we're of similar age, I would have grown up and gone into the workforce believing that, I move into a job, and if I get experience and I become successful at that job, I'm likely to do that job forever because I'll have a job for life. Job for life doesn't exist anymore, right? Because even if you are not the person that wants to change, just because you're bored maybe and you want to change and move into an environment when you've got a house to pay for, holidays to pay for, clothes to pay for, food to pay for, insurance to pay for, pension to pay for, and then you're going to just suddenly jump ship into an area where you have no experience and start at the bottom just because you're bored. You don't get to do that in this life. So, but there aren't any jobs for life anymore because technology comes along and disrupts things on a ever shorter amount of time. So,
well, look at what happened when I came back from Brexit. I 900 CVs went out. I got 3 acknowledgements that my CVs arrived. I got no interviews, and I ended up driving a 7.5 tonner for the Royal Mail for a year. Good money, because you now need a degree. You now need to be available from 7:30 in the morning till late at night. You're a videographer, you're a photographer, you're a social media planner and executor. You answer to a boss. You have half an hour lunch, and guess what? You get paid less than a cleaner for doing 3,000 images for Amazon. How many days would that be before you went into a coma?
Not many.
No.
So I just think that the idea of going, I'm into this, I'm into doing video, into doing design, I'm in whatever it is you're into. You need to be very much aware that whether you like it or not, you're going to have to evolve into something else. because
Sure.
technology is going to force your hand. It isn't going to be that you're just going to have to maybe learn video. You'll be forced to, because the market moves that way. I'm curious about the AI stuff. I'm just curious as the technology, or it's not AI. I mean, it's bullshit to call it AI. I don't believe in AI. I don't believe that AI exists. I don't believe that there's a computer with a program that actually is intelligence. I think you have to be very specific about what the word intelligent means to you in that context. So,
Well, you and I have a point of reference where a clever photographer or agency would come to someone like yourself, or the house that was either doing CGI or actually doing the retouching work, and asking you how they wanted the plates. So instead of a machine going off and looking at a billion photos and then being able to represent that, I still think there is a difference between someone that goes out and shoots the Tuscan landscape, drops the latest BMW 535 in it, and puts Priscilla the pink Spanish Barbie in, you know. And on that note, I'm going to bring you
yeah.
some more GGs, two
Okay.
GG, in a week's time.
Okay, buddy. So let's wrap this up, and we will talk in
Nice
just a
one.
minute when I'm done that. So I'm just going to say goodbye. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.
Goodbye from